A scheduled loss in this economy? I don't think so, Ryan.
A Dan Vladar win?
Whew.
I had to check my calendar to see if we were scheduled for one of those. It's all due respect to Mr. Vladar, they seem to be more rare than they should be this year, but that's what happened.
Few and far between. His last one came on December 10th against the Nashville Predators. We're going to get into that a little more later, but the Calgary Flames overcame the odds on Sunday night to outlast the Kraken in Seattle. And it was definitely a case of outlast, outlive. Oh my goodness. 3-2 the final, second half of a back-to-back on the road with your backup goalie, 2 new players in the lineup, and a top 4 defenseman out of the lineup. Thanks for tuning into Afterburner tonight, folks. I'm Cami. He's Ryan Pike. I see everyone's real mad that we took a little while to get on here, but better late than pregnant, folks. I know Mike loves my comedy. So just the second win on the second half of a back-to-back for the Flames this season. They're 2-5 now. So probably a good thing Calgary came out of the gates hot in the first period because the adrenaline certainly wore off. And before we dive into all of that, we just want to shout out our Super Chat charity partner for this season, Youth Centers of Calgary. Make sure to donate through the live chat there. Make sure that your questions, comments, and concerns get heard. And the proceeds, of course, go to YCC, a place where our kids are welcome and accepted as they are, a place where they get to have a break from the chronic stress that is the reality of many of their lives. And they just get to flourish through connection and fun, music, sports, all that good stuff. So what were your expectations for Calgary coming into this one tonight?
I expected to see a team try to grind it out. I mean, I think the Flames played decent against Detroit. I think they weren't particularly good in the first period, and they did not get the bounces in the first period. So they were behind the 8 ball, and then they just couldn't get enough going the rest of the game to balance things out. So I kind of figured we'd see a similar kind of game as we did against Detroit, and maybe they'd get a little bit more puck luck. I don't think I anticipated the first period that they ended up having. I thought maybe a little bit more, but it was one of those games where if you do good things, you'll get rewarded, and they did enough good things to spot themselves a hefty lead, and then they held on for dear life. And you know what? That's my books. That's a good road effort. If you get a lead at any point on the road and you don't give it all away, that's a good road game.
Well, I think coming into this game, they had 30 goals in the first period all season, and they came out with 3 tonight. I just thought it was so important for Calgary to come out fast just because it's hard playing catch up, especially when you're that tired. You're never going to be more energized or have more adrenaline than right off the hop. So they really needed to capitalize on that. And they did a good job. They were out shooting Seattle 10-5 through the first 8 minutes. And he got some redemption later, but Morgan Frost almost got his first. He totally deked around Joey OK for the French speakers out there. You get it? The chord is okay or all right in French. He's Joey OK.
He's Joey all right.
Joey all right. Yeah. So yeah, Frost just got around him and just didn't have the angle, put it right through the crease. But then it looked like Seattle was going to strike first. Well, they kind of did. Coronado's off for tripping. And the Kraken score off of the power play face-off with Jaden Schwartz parked in front of the net and just hacks at it a couple times until it squeaks past Dan Vladar. But, and it's a big but, Jamie Pringle came through again. We had a successful challenge on this one. Pike, what was the reasoning behind this one as we take a look?
Here we go. Let's have a look.
Let's see the goal first, and then we'll see. And so here was the NHL's explanation. They're kind enough to send out email explanations for everyone who was on their mailing list, and I managed to scan my way onto it. Explanation: video review determined that Jaden Schwartz entered the crease on his own and impaired Dan Vladar's ability to play his position prior to the shot entering the net. The decision was made in accordance with Rule 69.1, which states in part, quote, goals should be or defend his goal. And on the replay, Jaden Schwartz skated into the blue paint and kind of made contact, sort of hung up the stick of Dan Vladar a bit. It wasn't quite falling on the goalie, but the spirit of the rule, as it's been enforced by the league since they introduced video review and since they started being a little bit more consistent with it, has been, okay, if the puck is in there, you can go after it. If the puck ain't there, you got to stay out of the blue paint. and you can't go in on your own. And so, Jason Schwartz went for his skate and got a little bit too close to Vladar. And so the Flames maintained the 0-0 game.
Free Vladdy. The man must be able to move, as the refs say. So Calgary definitely gets away with one there. Stick taps to Jamie Pringle. For those of you buying Canadian right now, Pringles are American, so we can support this Pringle. That's the one that we're okay with right now. So yes, a successful challenge for the Flames. And then Morgan Frost breaks through. Like, it was a great goal for him. Just a really great release with 3 Kraken on him, and Sharon Govich with a nice, a smart leave for him. And this is how Morgan Frost put Calgary ahead after a pretty dominant first period.
Puck off a skate that floats for the Flames.
This is hopefully for a guy the Flames are pretty high on, a sign of things to come.
And for Sharon Govich, who had pretty much a disaster disaster. There's really no other way to put it for him. He's come on pretty well in January. It's been a big step forward, and we saw that on the power play shortly afterward as he struck again. But the question was, when did the whistle go?
There's a lot of things happening on this sequence, folks.
Hey, listen, sometimes you just need a goal. They don't ask how, they ask how many.
Yeah.
Totally bobbles it, but he just kind of swept it enough that, Decord is following Sharon Govich, but the puck just kind of keeps on sliding.
Joey Decord going, all right, we did our pre-scouts. This Sharon Govich guy, he loves the puck in his stick. I'm going to keep track of him. Oh, crap, he doesn't have the puck. Oh, crap, it's going between my legs. Oh, crap, it's behind me. Oh, crap, Jamie Alexiak took a slashing minor on the same play. Oh, crap, our video coach said we should challenge this for some reason. The some reason was as the puck was drifting in, as Yegor Sharangovich realized he did not get very much, if at all, of the initial shot, he went, okay, I should probably swipe. Maybe I'll get a piece of it. And as it basically was already going through Joey Decord's legs, he took a quick little swipe at it, made contact with both his stick and his glove hand. But the video review basically said, yeah, you're allowed to go in after the puck. The explanation the league sent for the goalie interference challenge by Seattle was stick-on-stick contact between Sharangovich and Joey Decord was an attempt to play a loose puck and did not constitute goaltender interference. And so the Flames went from having a power play because of, we'll talk about that part in a sec. They had a power play. Sharangovich scored a power play goal, and after the goal was scored, they drew 2 more minors and ended up with the 2-minute 5-on-3.
We need to get you a whiteboard with some red yarn
There's
to
so
explain
much
how
going
this all
on.
went down.
There's so much going on.
Delayed, at this point, there's less than 3 minutes to play in the period. And there's just the extended review, the Seattle timeout, the challenge, the review. They lose the review. So Calgary's got the late 5-on-3, which leads us to this. Jonathan Huberdeau with the power play goal. They initially had him stationed down low. We'll see here. And then Kadri does a really good thing here. He draws the puck over to the slot. So that kind of draws Seattle to follow him. And then Huberdeau is able to just shift up, and he has a yawning cage for the one-timer.
For his 20th goal of the year. That's fun. That's not a phrase I thought I'd be saying this year.
It's his 7th 20-goal season in his career, and he's on pace for his 3rd 30-goal season. Who would have guessed?
Brad Treliving. That's probably who would have guessed.
You know what? I'm sure you're going to say that to him if you see him this week.
I don't know if he's on the trip or not. I got to ask. I'll say this. Flames have had many 5-on-3s this year. They've had some 5-on-3s that went so abysmally that the coach called out when I don't know what we were doing at the 5-on-3. And I like Ryan Huska because when something's weird and just very odd, he will say, I don't know what we were doing. And when he thinks things are good, he'll go, I think that was good. And I haven't seen his post game, but I assume he'll say his team was pretty good, at least, especially early, because they got 3 goals in the first period. Something, as you mentioned, they had 30 first period goals heading into this game. So they increased their season total by 10% in one game. That's pretty good. And yeah, this whole thing too.
Fast math, Pike.
This whole thing too was started by third pairing defenseman Braden Pahal threw a clean body check in the neutral zone, which caused Jared McCann to lose his mind. And it seemed for a second that he might have actually hurt himself.
It looked like he hurt his hand. Actually, it looked like we were on the verge of several big injuries tonight. Thankfully, doesn't seem like anything lingered. But yeah, let's take a look at this hit. What's going on around him?
You don't want to be looking at your feet when you're puck handling. So McCann actually had to go to the room and get checked out. Evidently, he was fine, but he did not serve his own roughing. He got 2 minors for roughing. As you know, I don't think I think he might have gotten checked out during the mission. But yeah, he got a double roughing minor because that's how upset he was. And so the Sharon Govich goal was scored on the McCann, the second roughing minor. And then we saw the insanity that led to the 5-on-3 and the Flames' second 5-on-3 goal of the year. That was the point I was trying to get to when I was saying their 5-on-3 has been bad this year at times. They've scored 2 5-on-3 goals this year, and they've had far more than 2 opportunities to score 5-on-3 goals. So the power play seems to be trending in the right direction. This was just the 5th time this season they've scored multiple power play goals in a game.
Yep, 2 for 5 tonight.
I don't know how many times they've scored multiple power play goals in the same period, but probably far less than 5, maybe once or twice.
Oh my gosh, has that happened?
Not a lot. So, it's the Flames power play was pretty good when given the opportunity to be so, especially, you had a nice goal by Frost, a nice goal by Huberdeau off a nice little bit of, I think Kadri and Uyghur have a set play where they basically pass back and forth to each other to the point where the defenders forget that there's other players in Flame sweaters on the ice, and then they pass it to a third person. In this case, was Huberdeau. So it was a nice bit of deception there, and it led to the Flames having a 3-goal lead after one period.
And sure, you can say that Seattle opened the door a little bit with the iffy review call. I mean, honestly, if that was me on the bench, I feels like that's a toss up for which way that call is going to go, but Calgary still needed to bury on the chances they had, and they did that. And they also kind of pushed the door open ajar for Seattle as the game went on. The cracks started to show, but they were able to outlast them. So Huberdeau's goal did stand as the game winner. In the second, that's where the Kraken get one back. They were able to create a really fast 2-on-1, and Capo Caco was able to get Seattle within 2. And then this is where we kind of got to talk about Dan Vladar. It takes us to the 3rd period, and the Kraken get an absolute go.
What a weird goal.
It just ping-pongs through everybody, but it ends up being Brandon Tanev's goal at the end of the day. He have the best headshots in the NHL.
In the legs of Dan Vladar.
Name sounds familiar.
Just a fluke goal to get Seattle back in it. In the legs of Dan Vladar.
Yeah, they win an ozone faceoff, and then Jared McCann, whose hands are apparently fine, throws the puck towards the net, and it loops around, goes in. The official scorer said that Tanev got the last touch, so it goes in, and he gets a goal. So good for him.
So this is where I feel like the game could have actually come off the rails for Calgary. It takes me back to Vladar's last start, which was a week ago against Winnipeg, against second half of a back-to-back. There was a goal in the 3rd that he wanted back. It wasn't a great one, and you could just see that he looked devastated. The Flames were losing by that point for sure, but that goal got followed up by Vladar accidentally sending the puck over the glass for a delay of game penalty. But he was able to lock down for the rest of the game. That was a huge penalty kill, and then we're going to get back to the penalty kill, but he saves the game for Calgary with just seconds left. It might be second left, if we're being honest.
Montour won't have a shot on net. Montour centering. Oh, what a stop by Vladar with the left pad before time runs out. And Calgary perseveres.
That was well deserved. That was a big moment for Dan Vladar.
Yeah, the Kraken. This was the kind of game where if you're Seattle, you're kind of mad at both the Stars and the Fates themselves and your own performance, because I think Seattle played decent in the first period, but just badly enough to be down 3-0. Like, the Stars had to align for the Seattle Kraken to be down 3-0 to the Flames. Playing a team that was playing their third game in 4 nights with travel, and had been, according to the folks in the broadcast, the Flames plane apparently got hung up at customs after they landed in Seattle. So they did not get to the hotel till late after losing a tight game against Detroit. So there were some structural issues for the Flames that were arguably conspiring against them as the game went on. They looked gradually more and more like a team playing 3 and 4 by the end of the second period. The third period, they were one of the two teams on the ice, but they were obviously just trying to hold on to their lead. And we've seen this movie before with this team, mostly in previous years. This year, they haven't had that problem as often, but you're playing on the road, you get a lead, and then it's like, got away from you. There's plenty of times where games just get away from you. Home teams especially can gain momentum, especially a rested home team. And the Flames needed Dan Vladar in the third period to hold them in this one. And aside from the puck over glass miscue, I thought Dan Vladar was quite good. He was the guy they needed to be. He made the saves they absolutely needed him to make in that third period. And as a result, the last time the Flames won the second half of back-to-back was game 3 of the season.
Against the Oilers, who were also playing the second half of a back-to-back.
Yeah, folks, if you're not nerdy like me, the phrase scheduled loss means that it is your team is playing the second game in 2 days, and you're playing a team that's rested. So that's a scheduled loss. It's basically, they're rested, you're not, and the structural issue of being tired and traveling means that you're expected to lose. The Flames heading to this game had lost 5 out of 5 expected lost games, all of which had Dan Vladar in net. You can make a case that the majority of the games where Dan Vladar picked up the loss and the scheduled loss, he wasn't bad. There's been a couple of these probably like, ooh, you don't like that game. But
there's also been games where the Flames but there was one stretch where he had 2 games and the Flames scored 1 goal over that stretch.
I mean, if you're going to get out Dan Vladar for not scoring goals, we've seen Stuart Skinner score goals in his career. We can have that conversation. But if your thought process is Dan Vladar's whole job is to just keep it close, this team's getting outplayed, he's done that for the most part. I'd say the only bad game I've seen him play this year was that game against Tampa Bay, where everyone in front of him after they got down 3 goals went, oh, this is not our night, and then things just got ugly. But I think Vladar's generally been pretty good. He's their second best goalie this year, and I think that can be challenging when you realize you're the second best goalie on a team, especially if the goalie ahead of you is very, very good. But I really like Dan this season for the most part. And
even like the game against Vegas, which I think stood out as for the opening stretch, the Utah game and the Vegas game were the real stinkers that the Flames had. But even that, Vladar still made 33 saves in that game.
Yeah, like what else could he do in that game? He can't score 6 goals on his own.
Yeah,
I would pay to watch that. That'd be fun to watch. But I don't think Vegas would pull their goalie that often to make that a possibility.
Yeah. Shout out to Jeremy Dawson in the super chat there. Thanks for supporting U Centers Calgary. What did you guys think of the icing call just before the Kraken second goal? I'll be honest with you, man. I don't remember a weird icing call. Maybe I wasn't paying attention enough because I'm also still kind of dying. Actually, I'll let you take this, Pike. I'm going to I wish we had a cop on. Actually, can you turn off my mic?
It was a tight one. I mean, I think there's probably a half dozen icings during a game where you can go, I don't know why the linesman did that, but all right, cool. They probably have a better vantage point than I do for the broadcast, but yeah, some of them are tight. But I mean, there's in the course of a game, your team is probably going to get as many iffy icing calls as the other team does. And you got to figure out ways to either win those D-zone faceoffs off those situations or figure out a way to box them out. And, it was definitely a weird goal, but, let's be honest, the Flames second goal is also kind of a weird goal too. So, in the grand scheme of things, the bounces tend to balance out.
And just to point out again, the delay of game penalty was probably the biggest one that the Flames had to contend with tonight, but they still held the Kraken. Granted, not a great power play. They held them 0 for 3, and that's huge.
Yeah, it's the Flames power play has generally been pretty good heading into this game. They were 16th in the league average. They have last couple years they've had a bad power play. Let's not dress up. Power play hasn't been good. This year the power play's been pretty good. League average, yeah, okay. They've got, they're, I think if you look at their general metrics, 5-on-5 expected goals, they're somewhere between 18th and 20th. They're middle of the pack, but trending towards the middle of the pack. Power play, pretty good. Average to slightly above average. Penalty kill, not been good. They've been 29th or 30th this year, and the penalty kill is probably what helped them win the game here. If your penalty kill is mediocre in this game, you probably lose. And their goaltender was good at the penalty kill, which is something that they haven't had at times this season. But the guys in front of him were also pretty good. They did a good job making life less than horrible for their goalie on the PK this year or this evening.
Thanks for that. I think I might need to find myself a nice Afterburner pale ale to ease my black lung that's trying to escape from my body right now. Anyway, if you haven't yet, give the Afterburner Pale Ale a try. It's from our friends at Origin Malting and Brewing. They use barley grown on their local family farm to offer a truly sustainable grain-to-glass experience. That's 5 generations of farming. It means you're not only getting the intentionally chosen ingredients, but roots that run deep in our community. They believe it's all about blending tradition and innovation for a truly unique experience that proudly celebrates Alberta's farms. You can ask for it at your favorite restaurants, liquor stores if you don't see it there, but I mean, they should have it there already. If we're being honest.
Our friends in the comments are offering you some home remedies. I don't know, man.
I can't even tell you how much tea I've been drinking. Like
you've tried tea. Why not try
what
the
else
Afterburner beer?
Yeah, I think I need to try beer now.
Hey, you got to try as many options as you can until you find the right one. And for those of you in the chat, if you've tried both the Barn Burner and the Afterburner beers, let us know if you have a favorite.
Ooh, yeah.
I have mine. I slightly favor the Barn Burner beer, but they're both good. They're both different flavors for different situations. But yeah, they're both good.
Thanks for the suggestions, Daryl. Thanks for the suggestions, everybody. I'll report back and see what works. But it's been a full month. This is insane. My mom made me promise that like 2 more days and I'm going to the hospital.
Yeah, Cami's playing through the pain, you guys. We often comment about National Hockey players working through things that you go, oh, why would you do that? And then we have Cami here, actively dying for your amusement, pouring her heart and soul and her health into these programs.
Yeah, we got players playing with broken feet, but I'm the real hero here. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I wouldn't say you're the biggest hero I know, but I'm not gonna not say that.
Just happy to be
You're the biggest hero in this room.
No, Yasmin's here and she has to manage the chat.
Okay, yeah. You're more of a hero than I am.
So I do want to ask you though, Dan Vladar is 7-10-5. We're guessing this is probably the last we see of him between now and the 4 Nations break, unless he potentially gets that bookended game against the Kraken. Probably unlikely that he's taking on Toronto or Colorado. How do you think we'll look back on this game for Dan Vladar?
Let's be honest here. If you've looked at the various places that put out playoff projections, you'll know currently the Calgary Flames are in a playoff spot. They are 2 points up on the Vancouver Canucks with games played even. They both have 30 games left. But the schedule is what the schedule is. The Flames aren't home and cooled by any stretch of the imagination. So this Dan Vladar standing on his head and holding them into this game in the third period, we might look back at this on April 18th after that last game in LA and go, they might have made the playoffs based on Dan Vladar stealing them a game that they got. They ran out of gas by the third period. Dan Vladar didn't run out of gas. He was good in the third period. And
that man was playing for his career in that third period.
The margins between being a team with an X beside their name on April 18th or not are razor thin. The Flames will probably make it or miss it by a point or two. And so we might be looking back at this and going, man, Dan Vladar found his mojo in that game. And as a result, I might have to work later than I thought I would.
You got Penguin P here, who would be an upgrade on Vladar as a backup, not Philip Grubauer. And another shout out to our friends, Jeremy coming through in the super chat. Cami's tougher than McDirtbag. I'm putting all of this on my resume. All these kind words. But you mentioned the playoff implications that we have here. Vancouver's kind of started figuring themselves out, the Vancouver Pedersons, as I think they need to be called now. But
they don't have all the Pedersons, though. If Patrick Allvin wants to go full Thanos and assemble all the Pedersons, he's got a few that are left over. He's only got 3. There's more he can get, but they certainly have assembled quite a, what's the plural of Pedersons?
Pedersai.
A gaggle of Pedersons? An abundance of Pedersons? Let's say an abundance of Pedersons.
I like that. That's really painting with all the colors of the win there. So yeah, Calgary now has 59 points to stay just ahead of Vancouver in the playoff race. Again, 1 point back of LA for third in the Pacific. Avalanche, yeah, they've got a little bit more on them now. Avalanche are sitting there with 64 points with 2 straight wins. LA looks like they might start trending up after that god-awful stretch they have. They're now 3-6-1 in their last 10. So beatable for the Kings. I mean, Calgary could be in a pretty solid position come 4 Nations.
Yeah, the challenge will be, can they keep this momentum going? Because it's the schedule. It's still every other day between now and then they got a big gap. But can they make the most of the next 3?
Big. And also going on in, I guess, in the same realm as the Flames, we had the AHL All Star Classic getting underway this weekend. So, of course, we have Rory Cairns there and Devin Cooley there.
That's not all who's there.
I mean, okay, from the Wranglers. Yeah, it's a 2-person All-Star
No,
weekend.
they have a third person from the Wranglers at the All-Star game.
Oh, okay, now you're being pedantic.
No, Wranglers interim head coach, Brett Sutter, is representing the Wranglers. He'll be coaching Team Pacific on Monday night. The double interim coach in his first year as a professional coach, Brett Sutter, the former longtime captain of the Charlotte Checkers, Ontario Reign, and Calgary Wranglers, is now a coach. And because of,
don't you dare forget the Kootenay Ice.
Trent Cull getting promoted to the NHL on an interim basis, and then Joe Cirella having eye surgery, they have 2 weeks, a fortnight of Brett Sutter being an AHL head coach, and that fortnight coincides with the All-Star Classic. So, good for him. I think it's a fun story. I'm a Brett Sutter guy, Daryl's kid, following in his dad's footsteps into coaching, and is already an all-star caliber coach.
That's beautiful. Love that for him. Sorry, I didn't put the respect on your name the first time around, Brett Sutter, but I mean, skills competition tonight, that is not for the goalies. Devin Cooley was there to be a lovely shooter tutor and to make the All-Stars look good. Rory Cairns was in on the puck accuracy relay, I believe.
Yeah, I think if you're a goalie going to this event, you're just trying to have fun. I mean, no one ever goes to the All-Star game in any league and goes, who I want to see? I want to see the goalies. I want to see.
Was it Carey Price in the shootout one year where he turned around? So he was trying to see the shooter off the glass. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I've also seen goalies in the skills competition put on like a sleep mask or like there's a blindfold and try to defend that way. I mean,
let's be honest, they were cheating.
Oh, of course they were. But I mean, it's meant to be fun, and it sounds like they're having fun down in Palm Desert, where the Coachella Valley Firebirds, which is a fun name. Their logo is awesome. Coincidentally enough, the Seattle Kraken minor league team, and scourge of the Pacific Division, the Wranglers and them have had many strong playoff series so far, which is kind of fun to say out loud. Maybe we'll see more this year. We sure hope so. Yeah, it's a fun event. The All-Star Classic itself is a series of 3-on-3 games that happens Monday night on, I believe, TSN Flow Hockey. I believe NHL Network is also carrying it. RDS if you're a francophone and want to watch it in your language of choice. I think that's all the network's carrying it, but it's a fun event. I enjoy the wacky chaos that is the AHL All Star Classic. It's some of the best non-NHL players in the world just having wacky fun, and maybe the Pacific Division can win to get some more bragging rights.
Yeah, I would love to see us at the WHL have an all-star game again.
Yeah,
actually, WHL graduate 2024 champion Matthew Savoy was the fastest skater tonight. He was crushing it. Anyway, so All-Star Classic goes tomorrow. Good a time as any to look at the road ahead for the Flames. It's a 3-game homestand coming up ahead of the 2-week break. So Toronto on Tuesday. The Leafs snapped a 3-game skid against the Oilers on Saturday night. A pretty dramatic one. Wool was actually a standout player again on that one. Then it's the Colorado Avalanche. Bit of a new look for them on Thursday. The Avs are in Vancouver on Tuesday. So Calgary marks the first half of an Alberta back-to-back. They blanked the Flyers 2-0 this afternoon. That's back-to-back shutouts for Mackenzie Blackwood now. But side note, Kuzmenko, Pelchier have not made their Philly debuts yet. Per Eric Francis, I don't know if you have any more insight on this, but aiming for Tuesday against Utah because Pelchier is apparently still here trying to get the visa sorted.
They both are. Both players are still working through the immigration process. So it takes time. It's one of those things. So neither the Flyers had to go 11-7 because neither of their new acquisitions were available, whereas the Flames have gotten theirs into 2 games because Canadian immigration is different.
Actually, I remember when Braden Holtby got traded to Vancouver, he had pet turtles that got held at immigration. It turned into a whole thing. Do you remember that, Sega?
Yes, I vaguely recall. I got to see if I can find the link.
It's worth a Google. It's worth a Google.
Devin Cooley had the same thing where he has his pet bunny, and him and his girlfriend had to drive up in his Tesla from California because they didn't think they could fly with their rabbit on their laps on a plane, and they were worried about going through immigration and customs with his rabbit. So
I feel like I've certainly seen stranger things on a plane than a rabbit.
Just say it's an emotional support animal.
Flames wrap it up with Seattle at the Dome on Saturday, and a little bit of a bonus for you. If we look at 4 nations, so Wednesday, February 12th, Raz in action with Sweden taking on Canada in the tournament opener in Montreal. Then on Saturday, the 15th, still in Montreal again, we have Finland versus Sweden, and then the big one, the United States versus Canada. So that's going to be at 6 o'clock Mountain, I believe. Curious to see how that's going to go from a crowd perspective.
Yeah, and I've had some folks ask me, hey, when is Canada going to decide who takes Alex Petrangelo's spot on the roster? As in, when will we know if Mackenzie Weegar's going? It sounds like they're waiting to basically the last minute to officially decree that. So I think they meet. Everyone reports to the team camps on February 10th. So I assume they have to tell everyone by February 9th at the very latest. So it could take all week. Hopefully they let everyone know soon, because if Mackenzie Weegar has to cancel his Mexican vacation, he needs to know. You think you got travel insurance? Did you get cancellation insurance?
If you make that amount of money, I would hope you would.
I mean, you're just leaving money on the table if you don't get the insurance, especially if you're him and you're one of the guys that they could call up and say, don't lose your passport. Don't make travel plans you can't change. Maybe I hope for his sake he got the insurance. He might need the cancellation insurance.
I mean, worst case Ontario, he's laughing on a beach. And that's that.
That's true.
That's the road ahead. A presentation of Platinum Mitsubishi, family owned and operated by lifetime Calgarians. They've got the best warranty in the business at 10 years. And you can check out the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, Canada's best-selling plug-in hybrid SUV. You can check out Platinum Mitsubishi, 2720 Barlow Trail, Northeast. Now, it's also something about Seattle and hockey and football players. Did you see the All-Star we had in the house tonight?
I did.
Vern Adams Jr., the newest quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders. Man, it's like we're seeing him in a Flames jersey before we actually see him in the beautiful pinstripe jersey that the Stamps wear.
Good to catch up with QB1 of the Calgary Stampeders.
Big play VA. So he lives in Seattle in the off season, but he's dapping the fellas up as they hit the ice, and he actually made his first Calgary reception by catching a puck that Mackenzie Weegar kind of lofted at him.
I absolutely loved his performance in the Stampeders schedule release video where they taught him how they basically gave him, I think they call it Calgary 101, where he was fantastic. If Vernon Adams Jr., based on how we've seen him in his brief media appearances, if he's anywhere as good a quarterback as he is a good sport at taking part in these kind of things, Stans will have a good quarterback this year. I think it's going to be fun.
He's a huge personality. He can be super flashy, but he's already been joking about being the recruiter with CFL free agency coming up. So we'll see if he can attract some people here, because I know we're starting to see some other teams loading up an exodus of former Stamps going over to Riderville in particular, but just 105 days to the start of Stamp season.
I'm just excited about that Thursday night game right before Stampede. That's just gonna be a fun time.
That's gonna be great.
It's gonna be chaos, but the best kind of chaos. So hopefully it's a good game.
Yeah, good stuff. He had like 31 TDs in 2023, 324 rushing yards. Nuts. Stamps need something to cheer for this year, because there's nothing like summer at McMahon afternoon, just cooking outside with a crispy one, watching some football. That is the best.
I like it in the autumn when you have to bring a blanket and you need to drink warm beverages of some kind just out of necessity. Like that's CFL football is the autumn football when the sun's going down and it's a good game and the Stamps are high up in the standings or battling for a playoff spot. I mean, it's it's one of those things where it's hard when the games are good. It's hard not to get romantic or sentimental about the CFL when the weather is, you don't want like cold as heck wind, but you want, a nice breeze in the fall, crispy leaves, good quarterback,
I don't think of that. I think of like the winter when it's miserable outside and you have all the CFL fans who take like some sick satisfaction out of being like decked out to handle the elements. Actually, this is true. When I lived in Regina, I was the court reporter for a while, and I covered a murder trial where under cross-examination, a Rough Riders game was used as a point of reference. Like a witness was being interviewed and they were talking about like, oh, well, you've already admitted you were intoxicated. How do you know that this happened on this day? And the witness was like, I was walking back from the old Taylor Field. The Riders beat the Blue Bombers 29-27. And they were like, yes, of course.
That's the most Saskatchewan story I've ever heard.
It was one of them. I think that's anything big you want to hit, Pike, before we get to thoughts, questions, and concerns. Oh, Mike, where in Regina are you from?
I think we were going to talk about some history in the Western League, weren't we?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some Flames adjacent history, considering this
Flames adjacent history.
The team that this young gentleman plays for happens to feature their captain, actually, their co-captain, is a Calgary Flames prospect. And his defensive partner, in fact.
That is a very roundabout way of saying Eric Jameson. But yes, Landon DuPont, first exceptional status defenseman in the WHL, hit 50 points tonight. He did it in under 50 games. He's 15. He is the first rookie defenseman to hit 50 points in his first season since Scott Niedermayer in 1990. Whew.
God, Niedermayer. That's a pull. That's a pull.
Oh, man, Blazers legend, everything legend, Kootenay legend. Thank you, Niedermayers. They brought girls hockey to my hometown. Awesome.
Yeah, if you get a chance,
Landon does have a way to go before he catches that record, because Niedermayer put up 69 points in that season.
That's true.
But the crazy thing is that like it's a strong defenseman class this year for the rookies. Landon hit 50 points. There's two other players who are well on pace to hit it. There's Ryan Lynn on the Vancouver Giants and Keaton Verhoff on the Victoria Royals. Both of them also on pace to hit 50 points in their first season. It's pretty crazy stuff, actually.
Yeah, if you get a chance to watch Everett this year, I'd say Everett and Medicine Hat. This week we had a chance to have a free Western League game on YouTube with the Tigers and and the tips, and it was a heck of a game with
Casual hat trick for Gavin McKenna. Actually, he's one of the fastest players in modern history to hit 200 points.
just a casual 200 points for him.
118 games, I think it was.
So if you get a chance, that's my way of saying, if you get a chance to watch Medhat or Everett this year against each other, or just you got some time on your hands, and if you happen to be in one of those cities that they're playing in, I'd say go out of your way to go check them out.
And the Hitmen have been, I mean, you really can't go wrong with the Central right now. Anyway, let's hit a couple questions before we let everyone go on their way, and I'm going to hack up my other lung. What do we have here? All right, Ken, Pike, are the new Flames, Frost, and Farabee being utilized properly according to the statistics?
I'd say so far. I want to see a bit more of them on special teams as they get sort of acclimated to things. But I mean, the way Huskett builds his lines, he likes to have sort of a physical forecheck guy, a shooter, and a puck distributor. And on that line, on Frost's line, you have the physicality of Pospisil and the shot that Sharangovich has. And you use it if they use Frost tonight. He scored a heck of a goal, but if you use him as a distributor, that works for me. Farabee is the grit on that top line, and it makes sense to me. So I'd say until Connor Zary gets back, presumably after the break. We don't know how far after the break, but once he's back, then you have to shuffle things up. But I think for now, I think the top three lines are probably what they should be.
Now, I feel bad. I forgot about this because there is one game tomorrow. So we're going to pull up what we have from Bet365 to see what we got on tap. And you're the numbers guy. You're going to tell us what to do, Pike.
Oh, goodness gracious. Do the opposite of what I say. I don't know. It's the one game is Ottawa and Nashville. Nashville has been, they're not having the year they wanted. Ottawa is sort of wobbling between being very good and being a weirdly frustrating team. I'd
That's
say
been the story of a decade for Ottawa.
Yeah, I think the story of the last decade, you could put Ottawa in a category of like a half dozen teams that just absolutely tore it down the studs, and now everyone's going, they should be better. Right now, Ottawa is in a divisional playoff spot. They're actually 4 points behind the illustrious, the famous Toronto Maple Leafs.
They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're on a 4-game heater.
Yeah, so I think typically you see the road team be the underdog in these kind of games. Considering where the two teams are in the standings, I'd take a good look at Ottawa and see if you can find some kind of a parlay that you like, or a prop bet that you like in that game, because Ottawa is pretty good, and they're not amazing away from Canadian Tire Center, Tire Arena, building named after Canadian Tire. They play hockey, and it's outside of Ottawa, but they're a good team this year, and I think they may finally be living up to the potential that fans of the Senators have been screaming about for years. So good for them. Maybe they should get a new building soon, eventually, somewhere located within the city of Ottawa.
Actually, I found a cursed hard drive the other night with a bunch of my old interviews from when I lived on the East Coast. And there's Thomas Chabot, there's Jonathan Huberdeau in his Sideburns era, Daniil Miramanov, Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'll have to post some of those for you guys.
Sideburns era Huberdeau might be the best Huberdeau.
It was something. But that's what's on tap tomorrow with Bet365, world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account today and bet on a massive range of markets. And make sure to use the code NATION when you sign up, and whatever the sport, whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. I think I saw we had another super chat pop up there. What else does the team need at the trade deadline?
That's a good question. I don't know if they want to spend assets to get it, but the fourth line center is always going to be a question. I think if you can find something that is an upgrade on Kevin Rooney and you don't have to pay a lot for it, this year's draft has a reputation of being a not great draft. It's not terrible, but it's not the 23 draft. It's not quite as good as the 24 draft from the folks I'm talking to. So if you can use a later pick and slightly upgrade on Kevin Rooney, maybe look at doing that. But I could also see them doing absolutely nothing between now and the trade deadline, just rolling what they got, because I think they made the big move they're going to make.
Do you get a sense if there might be any movement on the goaltending situation for the Flames around the deadline? It's still just wait and see.
I think I think they're going to see, I think they have a goalie under contract for next season that they really love in Dustin Wolf. And, I think Dan Vladar, I don't know if you're going out of your way to keep him at this point, but, we saw the Dan Vladar this evening that makes you go, but, ooh, if he can be like this most of the time, maybe you do. There's 30 games left. A lot of stuff can happen. Between now and the trade deadline, far fewer than 30 games.
Hey, all right, we'll take a couple more here. What else do we have? Am I the only one baffled by Kadri taking defensive zone faceoffs with less than 2 to go? I mean, you can only make Michael Backlund do so much.
Yeah, who else would take them?
Yeah, your options are kind of few and far between. I mean, Backlund was logging some hard minutes tonight. Your other option is a guy who's, again, like Morgan Frost was good. I think he ended up like 61 point something % in the faceoff dot. But again, like guy newer to the team, unless you want to go to that fourth line that's been in a bit of a blender.
And honestly, the fourth line is usually on the bench in the third period in a tight game. So they did not see a lot of the ice against Detroit in the later stages of things.
All right, let's hit a couple more. What else do we have? Question, Hubie scoring goals, blocking shots, assisting, getting in the paint between Flames and Panthers. Is this a new style of Huberdeau play this season? Absolutely. I don't know if I'm prepared to call it like true power forward, because I still think of like the Jerome Iginlas and the Ryan Kesslers of the world when I think power forward. But it's a level of grit that he's added to his game. It's the most fulsome game that he's brought to the ice as a Calgary Flame. And if you took the points out of it, I would imagine that if he was still in Florida, he would find a massive amount of success doing that south of the border.
Yeah, I mean, what's the old saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expect different results. He wasn't getting the results he wanted, so he changed his game up. And, I think him being on the PK has allowed him to sort of be engaged in the game a lot more than, he had in the past. If you're in a game that gets a lot of penalties, a lot of times last year you'd have Huberdeau on the bench and sort of getting out of rhythm. And now he's on the ice a lot. And I think it allows him, as someone who wants to feel like he's someone who has a say in the result of the game, it allows him to sort of have his hands on it a bit more. And I think it's allowed him to just be a much better player than he has been in the past for the Flames.
All right, we'll wrap it up with this one from I Am Super Dave. If there was an all-star game this year, who would the Flames send? I'm going hard Dustin Wolf.
Yeah, it's got.
Yeah.
I'd
give the
that.
man his flowers in front of all the other teams.
Relative to the rest of the league, you'd go, okay, compared to the rest of your division, who's the leading defenseman, leading forwards, leading goaltenders? He's one of the top goaltenders in the league, let alone the Pacific Division. And that is not a sentence I thought I'd be saying out loud 50 games into the season. So yep. Dustin Wolf, thank you for surprising us.
If they had it too, I mean, it's not an event that's terribly taxing on the body. I mean, he could almost, if you were there as a goalie, you could honestly almost do like the Kari Lehtinen and just sit on top of your net for the whole thing and just let the guys do whatever. But I think it would be good to almost have that this year, because then you would just have a chance to have all the national media and the people who don't typically see Wolf talk about Calder buzz for him. This
is just a stat I'm going to throw out there. So you know which goaltender in the Pacific Division leads and wins? It's a three-way tie between Stuart Skinner, Aiden Hill, and Dustin Wolf. One of those guys is a rookie, and that's weird, but also really fun. So yay for fun.
We love fun. Last one I want to shout out tonight. It's been a little while since the Jasper tourney, but I think everyone's still buzzing from that. I keep on trying to find stuff in that beautiful Yeti cooler we got over there. So again, like, huge shout out to Yeti for keeping everybody hydrated. The hot beverage is hot, the cool beverage is cool. You can crave the cold and extend your ice time with the hard-hitting gear that's built to honor the toughest sport on earth. And Booster Juice. They needed that. That's like the only fruit those boys get in their diets. It's key. And you can download the Booster Rewards app today to start earning berry points for delicious and nutritious smoothies, drinks, and food that'll get you through the day. Any final thoughts, pal?
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a big next 3 games. I imagine the Dome will be, especially Tuesday and Thursday. Colorado is always a fun matchup. I think fans get excited for that, and it's going to be a lot of blue in the Dome on Tuesday night. Not just because of the cold freezing people's extremities, but also because the obscure team from out east, the Toronto Maple Leafs, are in
It's like
town.
the Snow Miser and the Heat Miser are playing each other.
Ooh, I think just in terms of just a jersey matchup, both in the crowd and on the ice, there's gonna be some fun contrasts on Tuesday, and it's always a fun night at the Dome. So I'm looking forward to that one.
All right, awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys. No, it was a late one, but enjoy what's left of your weekend. And Barnburner's back tomorrow, and Afterburner back on Tuesday. Have a good one.